Welcome back to week 4 of my journey from zero to hero in the watch world. If you're new, my name's Harry, I'm new here at the Swiss Link and I've been finding my feet through the world of watch dealing. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the buying process behind luxury watches. It's something that I hadn't even really thought about before I started here. But if you think it's just us scrolling through the internet and finding watches we fancy buying, you're in for a shock because there's quite a lot more to it than that. But stay tuned and we'll find out what happens. Cheers. So a question I get asked a lot from customers when they come in to look at buying watches from us is, where do we source them all from? We get them from a few different places, but it's pretty simple really. The majority of our stock comes from our existing clients. We always try and give out as fair a price as we can to our clients when they're buying watches from us, so they know that we will be fair when we stock their watches as well. They know that it's going to be a little less than what they might be looking to pay for a watch like that, because obviously we have to stock that and there's costs that go into that, and we've got to make a little bit of money on top as well. But we are always fair with our clients, so once they've dealt with us a couple of times, we have a lot of clients that come back and want to move on their watches with us as well. We also deal with some of the dealers that we've dealt with for a long time. We don't just deal with everyone, because you never know what's going to happen, but people we trust, we do still get watches off them. Not as many as we do from our clients, but that does still happen. And we also just tend to buy some from private sellers that we do find online as well. This happens pretty rarely, but when we need stock in, we will have a look, see what's out there, reach out to people and see if we can make deals happen that way as well. So to give you an example of a client of ours selling us a watch recently, we took in this Omega Seamaster 300 divers. Lovely black face and the black bezel. It's a great watch. We had a client in the other day who was coming to look at buying a completely different watch, and we were just talking away about watches, and we mentioned how we just bought one of these, and we were sort of going through the price we paid for that watch, and suddenly the client turned around and said, "I've got one of those and I'd like to move it on, and the price you guys paid on that last one sounds pretty fair, so would you mind trading this one in as a part exchange for the watch they were looking at buying?" That's absolutely fine by us. So we ended up taking this watch off a client in part exchange for a different watch, and this happens a lot. We also get some watches, like I mentioned, from dealers. So this came from a dealer that we've worked with for many years. Well, not me personally, but the company's worked with for many years. This lovely solid gold day with diamond bezel, diamond hour markers, and a fantastic blue-black dial. Lovely watch, and yeah, we sourced this through a dealer we've been working with for a long time. So they do come that way, just not quite as often. And this one, if anyone was watching last week, you'll know that recently I paid a little bit too much money for a Datejust Wimbledon. This is the watch in question. It came from a client that reached out to us on Instagram. So that happens quite a lot. We get a lot of people wanting to move their watches on through Instagram and some of our other online platforms. It's a lovely watch. The negotiating I did on this one, possibly not my best, maybe paid a little bit too much money, but we still ended up with a really nice watch from an existing client. And another example of something slightly different is the watch I'm wearing here. So this is a 1976 Rolex Oyster Perpetual date, reference 1500. It's a very old watch, but I was just scrolling through Chrono and looking at lots of different ads, saw this, messaged the person who was selling it. It was a private seller, not from another dealer. We negotiated a price, and that's how I ended up with this one here. So you can see they come through lots of different avenues. All these watches here, they're all for sale at the moment. So if you like the look of any of these, get in touch and we'll be able to do a deal on these as well. So how do deals like this happen? Well, to use this one as an example again, obviously when we had the client in store checking out the watch he wanted to buy, he didn't have this one on him because he hadn't really thought he wanted to move it on and part exchange it for that particular watch at that time. So what we said to him is, don't worry about it, go away, take some pictures of this watch, send them in to us, we'll sort of get you a rough price of how it looks on pictures, then you bring the watch in, we'll give it a further inspection, and then we do all the things I talked about last week, authenticating it and making sure everything's running correctly on it, getting it on the time graph, just making sure it is something that we definitely want and it's definitely all correct. And once we've done that, we can start to really discuss the price a bit more in depth. We'll always give a vague estimation before before the client sends us over pictures and things like that, but once we know it's perfect, we can give a exact price on it there. It's a lot easier like that when you're negotiating with somebody you already know, and maybe you're negotiating with somebody over email or text or something like that. What can be a little bit more difficult is when you get watches come in and they want to negotiate a price with you there and then on the table. You sort of got to think on your feet. You've got to make sure everything's right with the watch there and then. You've got to be thinking, okay, what is this watch? What do I want to pay? And where will this watch sit for us nicely? If I pay this amount, what can I put it on our website at for? So you've got to be quick, and you can't really hesitate in that moment because you might lose that deal. Most people are very good and they'll let you sit there with the watch for a bit, but some people can be a little bit more difficult and want the price there and then. And this is where your market knowledge really comes into play. So you've got to know where, say, a watch like this Datejust sits in the market at the moment and where you'd be comfortable listing it at, for example, on our website at yourself. So you've got to think, what would I be listing this watch for? And of course then you've got to put a margin on top of that. So you need to be able to offer the customer there and then a price that's fair for both you and for them. And a lot of customers, they sort of come in and they expect that we'll be able to pay as much as they're seeing these watches posted online for. And obviously to trade, it's going to be a little bit less than that. So maybe we sort of shoot down their expectations a little bit sometimes. We're trying to be as fair as we can. And obviously if they wanted to go away and sell this watch privately, they might be able to get a little bit more money for it. But for us as a business to take these watches in and be able to make a little bit of money on them themselves and list them correctly, they're going to be a trade price rather than the price you might be able to get if you were to sell it privately yourself. This is actually the perfect time to talk about the market at the moment, as there's a bit of a transition period going on at the moment. Rolex have recently put up their pricing with it being January. This is something they tend to do most years. Usually they go up about 5%, but whenever it happens, it does cause a bit of a ripple through the market. So what's happening at the moment, because their pricing has gone up at list, some dealers are bidding a bit more aggressively. Sellers can sort of adjust their expectations a bit. They see these watches for more online and they want more themselves, which is completely understandable. And certain watches can become a little bit more difficult to obtain at the moment until things have calmed down a little bit. We're still doing lots of deals, but from a business point of view, it can make negotiating deals a little bit more difficult. Our priority as a business is always not to chase the market, but to be as fair as we can with the pricing we get things in at. So it's fair for our customers. And sometimes this does mean you've got to walk away from a deal, even if it was a watch you wanted, just because the price at that time might not be correct. And it doesn't mean you won't get a deal done with that individual another time. It's always changing, and it's been something that I've had to really learn, because this is my first year doing it. But it's a learning curve, and I've been stung a few times by getting my hopes up, thinking I'm going to get this watch for us, and then the deal's taken off the table. So what am I learning from all this? The whole point of doing these videos is to document my process and my journey in this, to see what is the hardest thing to learn. And so far, I think buying is the hardest part I've come across anyway. You've got to be up with your knowledge, you've got to sort of risk manage everything when you're going through these watches, make sure everything's right, and then negotiate your price. It's really shone a light on how important your relationships with your clients and other dealers are. If you have better relationships with people, a lot of the time people are buying the dealer, not the watch. So it's good to have fantastic relationships with your customers. And it's also good just to know when not to buy something, when to walk away from a deal and think this isn't right. So yeah, I've not been doing it very long. I'm just scratching the surface, but it's a lot more difficult and strategic than I thought it would be. So next time, I'm going to take us through a bit of what happens once we've got the watches in stock. I'm going to show you how we clean them up, photograph them, get them ready for sale, get them ready for the website, and just a little bit of what I do in getting these things from being here onto our site. It's the boring admin stuff. I really enjoy it, and it's how I learn most of what I know about these watches already, just by going through it all and getting used to all of the reference numbers, all of the different makes, models, everything. Just doing it all the time is how I got all this stuff in my head. So it's something I'm really excited to talk about, and we'll get onto that next week. But on the topic of selling watches, if you have any watches you want to sell, I'm going to leave a link to our Sell Your Watch page on our website below. And if you do have anything, get in touch and we'll be more than happy to get a price for you and a deal done. So yeah, thanks for following along, and I'll see you next week.